With a copyright of 1977, we have CX2641, better known as Surround. Let's pop it in the old 2600 and take a look at it. So as you can see, Surround is obviously not breaking any new ground with graphics. But what we have here is a very early predecessor to an early cell phone game called Snake. Now in the cell phone game Snake, what you have is a one-player game where you control a series of pixels, and as you move around, your snake, so to speak, grows longer and longer. And the idea is to grow as long as you can without touching any other part of your snake body. And it's quite a simple concept game. It was on virtually all cell phones prior to, I'd say, 1999. It was just a little stupid built-in game that virtually every cell phone had. And although Snake on your cell phone was an incredibly simplistic game, it was actually quite effective at keeping you occupied if you were, say, sitting on a bus or waiting for a train. And it was actually somewhat enjoyable. Which brings me to Atari's Surround. Surround is almost a similar concept. It's a very early prototype of that concept, in fact. But instead of being a predominantly one-player game, Surround is a two-player game. Now, although in Surround there is a one-player mode, the second character is controlled by the computer in the one-player mode. And actually, you are looking at the one-player mode. I'm controlling the green pixel, and the Atari 2600 is controlling the red pixel. And I must admit, in one-player mode, the Atari 2600 isn't really a challenging opponent at all. In fact, the only point he scored was when I accidentally backed into my own line. Which brings me to my next point. Now, although Surround is not very fun with just one player, in the one player versus the computer mode, this game is incredibly fun in two-player mode, playing a friend. The game is so simple in concept that anybody can pick it up and play. And in case you haven't figured it out by now, to play Surround, you simply plug in an Atari 2600 joystick controller and move it around, and that controls your block. Some modes of this game do use the fire button, and that allows you to stop drawing a line while the button's depressed. To score points, you want to force your opponent to crash into either a wall or a line that you or he drew. And that's it. First one to score 10 wins. Let's sit back and enjoy the sights and sounds of Surround for a moment. Oh, look at that. Now the computer is fucked. And that's how you own punk bitches in Surround. Alright, so where was I? Back to the review. The soundtrack can kind of put you in a trance and actually make you zone out a bit, which is could be a good thing if you're looking to unwind after a hard day at work. Now, most people, when they first look at this game, just pass it by. They think, ah, this is just some early 2600 piece of crap. But it's actually quite good. It's a lot of fun to play with a friend. Like I said, the one-player mode, not so great. But the two-player mode is definitely a good time. There are 12 different modes of Surround, and 2 of them are one-player, the other 10 are two-player versions. And that alone is impressive, to think that there are 10 different variants of how to play this game with 2 players. Amazing. And as a bonus on the Surround cartridge, you have 2 modes of video graffiti. And all video graffiti simply is a free draw mode, where you can move the blocks around and draw whatever you like on the screen. Which might have been quite fascinating in 1977, but not so much today. But let's be honest, nobody buys CX2641 for video graffiti. They're in it to play Surround, 2-player mode, with a friend, and a couple of beers, and have a couple laughs. Now, due to Surround's age, it might be a little difficult to actually find a copy. I managed to find one, mixed in with a big bulk lot of Atari games. And that was quite nice, so I didn't really have to even pay much for it. If you break down the cartridges I got in the lot by price, they'd average about, 25 cents a piece. But if you happen to see Surround by itself for sale, I wouldn't expect to pay more than $2 or $3 for it. Because, let's be honest, there's not a high demand for it. But it is a fun game. This is a prime example that better graphics don't necessarily make better gameplay. Oh, and one little side note. I'd recommend using the actual Atari 2600 joysticks when you play this game instead of a Sega Genesis control pad. I found the Sega Genesis control pad a little too touchy and temperamental with this particular game. I'm Dommie from Classic Games Revisited. Until next time.